sport. It has changed. It's not really at all like we remember and once worshiped it. Because of the contemporary financial demands on team owners, the once beloved doubleheader is rapidly becoming a thing of the past. But fortunately, in some sports, like motor racing, occasionally one does occur. Like one of the most exciting weekends in all of racing, the annual capper to Syracuse's Super Dirt Week, the doubleheader featuring dirt modifieds and the World of Outlaw sprint cars.
The following is a presentation of Prime Network. Against a clock, against an arch rival, on a strip, on a track, there's a tremendous world of motorsports racing. And now you get to enjoy all its variety on the Chevy Motorsports Hour. Brought to you by Chevrolet, the heartbeat of America, who invites you to see all the new 1993 Chevrolets at your local Chevy dealer.
If there is a racing equivalent to the starting pitchers in the motor race, it is the two people who occupy the front row. And the front row today represents the gamut of emotions and experiences on a mile racetrack. First of all, the man on the front row is one of the giants of this sport. He is a man who has won more races in small block modified here, and this year he turned in the fastest lap ever. How about it, Kenny Tremont? Does this look like just another routine win at Syracuse?
Well, they're never really routine. There's a lot of good cars here, and we got to pay attention and drive the wheels off it.
Well, the front row is almost a neighborhood story. A neighbor of his starts by his right side. Now, this guy only ran one race all year, and he's never been in a position like this here at Syracuse. It is Jim Chenette. Now, there are those who say that Jim Chenette has no possibility of being a Dragon Slayer today. How about it, Jim? What are your chances?
I think we can do just as good as anybody else in the field. I got a good car underneath me and a good crew back behind me. I think we can get a good shot at it.
Well, for many people here in the East, this race annually takes on almost biblical proportions. And for some, it is truly a David versus Goliath. Here's Paul Small.
Larry, you've set the stage for this afternoon's race. Now let me introduce the two kinds of players we're going to see in competition today. First off, there are the Goliaths that we refer to. Those are the professional race drivers. That's all they do for a living, drive a race car. However, the Davids that are in the field are the Saturday night weekend warriors who have one chance a year to beat the big boys at their own game right here at Syracuse. And one man that many people are looking at as being a giant killer is from Joyceville, Ontario, Canada, Rick Wilson, who has had 20 victories on the dirt small block circuit this year. Rick, do you feel at all intimidated by running with some of the professional big block modified drivers in today's field?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Those guys are always faster than the small block guys, as a rule, But that sets the pace for yourself. If you can go as fast as them, you're doing good. Like, everybody wants to be able to go as fast as Hearn, Johnson's, McCready's, you know what I mean? So all you can do is keep trying. If you watch them and try and get going as good as them, you'll be doing something right.
Rick Wilson has a very good chance at killing some of the giants in the field, and our pit reporter Andy Fusco is with some of the prospective giants who are starting behind him.
Have you ever noticed in the Grand National races how the Busch guys time trial up front, the Winston Cup guys start in the back, but when it's all said and done, the big names are in victory lane. Well, the same thing might happen today because two of the real giants in modified racing time trial badly. Danny Johnson, what went wrong on your time trial lap to put you back in 18th spot?
Well, the motor didn't perform as we wanted to, so we switched the camshafts in it. It seems to be running real good today. We're going to try and get to the front and see what happens.
Indeed, he is running good. In practice, he ran great. Billy Pouch from Frenchtown, New Jersey, starts alongside of Danny Johnson. Pouch, the winningest driver in modified driving in the East this year, is 50 laps enough for to be able to come up from the back of the pack.
Well, as long as the leaders don't run away too hard, I think we got a pretty good chance, I think there's so many cars in this race, there's going to be a lot of lap traffic, so that might work to my advantage.
Indeed, coming from the back without Kenny Tremont, running away is the key because he's 4 miles an hour faster in time trials than Pouch. Can Pouch and Johnson come up through? We'll see on Prime Network right after this.
Syracuse Super Dirt Week of 1992. This is, in effect, the national championship for the small block and small V8s. 358 to be exact, modified race cars here on what we call the Moody Mile.
Not only has this been the fastest Super Dirt Week to date in its 21-year history, it's being conducted on the most treacherous mile racetrack in the United States that's still in operation today. We say treacherous not only because of the racing surface, but the variations in width of the speedway as you work your way around. On the front straightaway, plenty wide, 120 feet. There's lots of room to make a mistake here, and there's lots of racing room. But as you head towards turn number 1, Larry,
it begins to narrow down. Now, you might see that 7 wide for just a quick second at the start of the race, but it quickly funnels down to certainly no more than 3 racing lanes.
As you get into the second turn, the outside wall in effect comes in on the drivers and funnels it right down to only 60 feet wide coming through turn number 2.
If you're driving, you may think this is as bad as it's going to get. Well, you're wrong. It gets down to 55 feet wide in the backstretch, and the only way you go 3 abreast is if the guy in the bottom is in deep trouble.
Then there's a concrete culvert that juts out into the inside lane on turn number 3, makes the narrowest point of the racetrack 45 feet. That's a freight train through here, Larry.
But fortunately, you have gotten through the worst part of this 1 mile. 70 feet coming around corner number 4, opens up into the front stretch where you can get a lot of work done. Now, here is the field for today's 358 Small Block Championship lining up, and Paul, they're entering what must be the most treacherous part of this mile.
But the drivers with a significant amount of bravery will do a lot of overtaking right at this point.
The field is forming up now. All cars are out there, 52 strong. Our pole setter today is a man who is one of the most successful of all time at this racetrack in the 358 modified. Kenny Tremont, he has run 3 previous races, finished 1, 2, 3 every time. On the outside is Jim Jeanette. This may be the Dragon Slayer in today's field in the white number 15.
Starting second row on the inside, Brett Hearn out of Sussex, New Jersey, driving the Miller Genuine Draft entry. He's always a threat. Outside that row is the car number 99. This is Dick Larkin's Bud Light entry. He could also be a threat. He's been very fast this week.
David Canero, another one of those drivers who's hoping to unseat the big names. He's in a red number 26. On the outside in the 6th position is Billy Decker, a man who swept this race a year ago, but he's in a backup car today.
Jeff Hetzler, a former winner of this event, starts inside the next row with his car number 74. Outside, another one of the professional big block modified drivers, Randy Glensky, driving car number 28.
The 1984 winner of this race, Bob McCready, starts on the inside of the 5th row in the 9th position. And Stevie Payne, who finished second in the big race, the big block modified race a year ago, is on the outside. Running down the rest of the field, some of the other names you might look for. Rich Rickey, who's had a great season this year in the small block ranks. He starts 11th. Marcel Lafrance, one of the all-time great drivers in this division. He's 5th in the current points this season. Mike Rickey, Pat O'Brien leading in the Mr. Dirt Championship points for the 1992 season. And Doug Hoffman starts way out back in 49th.
Doug had to win a qualifying race held at a short track outside of Auburn last night to get into today's field. He starts all the way back in the 49th position, but he could be a threat at the start of the race. I tell you who's not going to be a threat, though, Larry, is Bob McCready.
Bob McCready, we understand, has been dropped from this race. Apparently they are having engine problems, and the man who was supposed to start inside the top 10, former winner here, certainly one of the annual favorites at Syracuse, will not race in the small block championship.
It's horrible luck for McCready. He's always snake bit in one form or another, no matter what division he runs in at Super Dirt Week. This year, it was his turn to get bad luck in the 358 modified race.
Meanwhile, here comes the field around that very tight corner number 3. Kenny Tremont on the pole. Remember, 3 starts, 3 top 3 finishes, including a win, and Kenny Tremont is on the throttle early. The green flag is out, and the 358 small block championship is underway.
Down into corner number 1. Look at Brett Hearn down on the inside of Jim Jeanette. Almost gets into that wet stuff down on the inside rim of the racetrack. And Billy Pouch getting wide as well. Everybody's getting up into the loose stuff. I think most drivers took for granted how much traction they were going to get going through that first turn on the opening green flag lap.
Pouch not only wide, but did some bumping and some banging, although there are no crashes in corner number 1. There's Dickie Larkin in the black number 99 trying to get inside and move up another position on Jeanette.
Jeanette works to the outside. Larkin comes in on the inside. Jeanette's going to get hung out to dry here in corner number 4. A lot of drivers were worried about him starting up front. They didn't know if he had enough experience to cut it. Well, he made it through the first couple of corners all right, but after the next two corners. He's lost 2 positions. He's back to 4th and might be going further back.
There is Jeanette once again losing control, handle of the groove. He loses 3, 4, maybe 5 more positions as Randy Glensky in that yellow and white number 28, one of the top runners on this mile track, moves underneath.
Positions 1 and 2, Tremont and Hearn, you saw them just moving out of camera position there. They've built up a bit of an advantage over Dickie Larkin in 3rd. Here off corner number 4, though, Hearn is starting to reel in Tremont, whose car is 2 miles an hour faster than everyone else's in time trials.
It also does make you wonder, is there any strategy in a 50-lap, 50-mile race? Maybe not. If there is strategy involved, you got to give that nod to Hearn, but as you pointed out, Paul, Tremont has been fast this week.
This Troyer Engineering car that Tremont is driving has performed flawlessly all week long, and now we see Dick Larkin in 3rd, the black 99. It's sort of broken away from that pack from 3rd place back. He's now starting to reel in the leaders. I wonder if Tremont's setting a conservative pace here at the start, or if he's going all out.
Kenny Tremont won this race in 1988. He has the best batting average of all the drivers. Yeah, Hearn has been successful in this race too, as he has been the big block race. And there is Danny Johnson, the Freightliner number 6, working on Billy Pouch. They're trying to move up through the field from mid-pack starts.
Pouch had a terrible start to this race in the opening lap, right into the first turn, slid out of the group, lost a number of positions. He and Danny Johnson are now faced with trying to come up through the field, and passing is at a premium here at Syracuse. There's only really 2 places you can make it work.
Needless to say, very heavy traffic right up front. Incidentally, you may see a second Freightliner-looking car. It is number 91. That is the ride that Billy Decker is in today, not the characteristic yellow wheel sponsorship.
Now here's Matt Quinn's car number 44 working down at the inside of the 42, driven by Pete Bignell. Quinn, a regular campaigner out in the Capital District. We move back up front where another one of the Lebanon Valley Speedway campaigners, Kenny Tremont, continues to hold the lead.
And make no mistake about it, there is a lot of regional pride in dirt modified racing. The people from eastern New York State felt like they had a chance to do well this weekend, all their drivers, and maybe in this race, Tremont the best chance.
The Lebanon Valley Speedway regulars are used to high speeds. Lebanon Valley is one of the fastest short tracks in the country with its long straightaways and tight corners, so they're well adapted to the mile racetrack.
Oh, look at Jeanette.
Jeanette drifting high again in the blue and white car number 15 has just been moved back to 8th position, and now Steve Payne in the yellow 7X is challenging for that position. It looks like the Jeanette car's got a handling problem. As you watch him coming through the corners, the back end just drifting out and twitching a little bit. He just can't seem to hold the car down on the inside of the racetrack, and that's really going to cost him.
You do feel sorry for Jim. His best finish in this race is 7th, and he's certainly lean on experience compared to everybody else, particularly that gold number 60.
That's Doug Hoffman out of Allentown, Pennsylvania, who started the race back in 49th position. If you can imagine this, he's just making a pass on Mike Rickey for 24th. He's moving quickly.
And look at Hearn. The battle up front is heating up. He taps Kenny Tremont going into that very narrow corner number 3, but Tremont holds his line.
Hearn closing in as they come into the corners, but as you see coming out, Tremont's car's got the horsepower and the traction coming off the corners to pull out the advantage on Hearn as they move down the straightaway.
Brad Hearn is the man who is ranked 3rd in all-time points of the 358s as they race here at Syracuse. The leaders move into heavy traffic, and Tremont is caught behind a slower car. Are they hooked up? Hearn looks to the inside. They're side by side to the narrow backstretch.
Tremont just almost hits the wall there. Here comes Dick Larkin. Larkin's crisscrossing down to the inside, gets by Hearn for the 2nd position, almost gets Tremont going into turn 3. I cannot believe Kenny Tremont was able to save that race car.
What an anxious set of moments there down back straightaway. Incidentally, that was Tom Hager in the number 17 car, driving a car sponsored by Mark Kenyon Ford.
Hager has pulled his car off the racetrack, will stay under green flag conditions, and Brett Hearn goes from having 1 to 2 obstacles to contend with.
Well, you make a good point, because the man who won this race in 86, 89, and 90 has just seen that mountain that he has to scale if he wants to win again this year get just a little higher.
And Larkin now gets to play cat to the proverbial mouse, Kenny Tremont up in front.
Kenny Tremont continues to lead. There is Hearn pressuring. Now, if you're familiar with dirt modified racing, you may think that that is Danny Johnson. But remember, that red and white car, that is number 91 today. That is Billy Decker. As we also look at the number 26 of Dave Camaro, they are running in 5th and 6th. Decker blew an engine after qualifying very well. He's running Danny Johnson's backup small block.
He's the defending champion of this race, and right now things are moving rather smoothly for him in an unfamiliar race car.
Boy, he and Camaro really have their work cut out for them. Look at all the slower traffic they are moving into, trying to eke out a second lane as they go through the treacherous corner number 3.
Now we go back to the battle for second and third. Larkin in the 99, Hearn in the 1 car. And Billy Decker is slowing up. Corner number 4, there's smoke erupting from the back end of the race car. Looks like a blown engine for Billy Decker.
Decker is being motioned into the infield area. Oh, he's sliding, but Decker fortunately had the car slowed down enough. You can see the front bumper was even bent up, so he did hit the wall, but it wasn't a serious crash.
This will bring out the first caution of the afternoon. Now let's go back in time and look at some phenomenal driving by both Kenny Tremont and Brett Hearn.
Well, you're right, phenomenal. Look at Tremont. He swerves to the outside, somehow keeps it off the outside wall. But the most impressive thing, he keeps his foot in the throttle. Here comes Larkin in that black 99, but somehow both of them managed to save this situation, although Hearn did lose a position.
Now watch the shrewd move by Dick Larkin. He was on the outside of Hearn, made a crisscross move right in front of him, snuck to the inside of Tremont. Tremont recovered in the nick of time.
Here are the top 5 after 16 of 50 laps, and much more excitement to come from Syracuse here on Prime Network.
Well, guys, you want to know why Billy Decker couldn't make it up this small hill? He was literally sliding in his own oil. That brings out the caution here on lap number 16. And as Larry told you at the head of the show, this is a doubleheader. Earlier today, the World of Outlaws took to the stage. Their race was one of the greatest ones in Syracuse history. Back to Larry and Paul for the highlights.
Any of the sprint car highlights at Syracuse are always Sammy Swindell, the only man who has won here 5 times and set that closed course record for 1 mile and dirt of 141 miles an hour. But look what happened to him in 1992. He looked like he was destined once again to be the fastest car on the track, but he was involved in an altercation with Mayor Stelfox in practice. Here's her comments.
Well, I was coming up on a slower car, and I thought somebody was on the outside of me, so I tried to go on the inside, and when I did, I guess it was just really dry, and the car just like turned right and went into the wall, and then I guess I took Sammy Swindell out at the same time.
Hey, it's a mile, it happens.
Yeah, well, that is fast, and the wind turbulence probably helped a little bit with this problem, but, you know, what can I say?
How bad is it hurt, Kelly?
Probably from the firewall forward. It's junk.
And why the decision not to bring out the other backup?
We can't get the fuel tank on it for one, and this car is built for here, and he's not interested in running 10th. He wants to win, so we're just going to go home and fix this one, get ready for Indy.
In pre-qualifying practice, Sammy Swindell was involved in a crash and opted to simply leave the racetrack. This was shocking and very disappointing to particularly a lot of people from the East Coast. But given their side of the story, they had one car that they came here with specifically built to run the mile. The backup car was not designed to run a big track. And the other, perhaps bigger factor is if you know Sammy Swindell, he was here for only one reason, that was to win the race. Having lost that opportunity, he chose to go home. But Andy has a different point of view.
Larry, I understand your point, but Sammy does have a backup car. Okay, it's a short track car, but I bet you it's capable of running 4th or 5th here, which pays a lot of money. Now you think about these Winston Cup guys who go out there with banged up race cars, touring around the bottom of the racetrack, hoping they can finish 28th as opposed to 29th. And here's Sammy Swindell going home because the best he can do is 4th or 5th. I just think it's incomprehensible.
1 year ago today, Sammy Swindell drove to victory lane at Syracuse. This year, he drives back home to Memphis. We'll be back with sprint car action on Prime Network.
Sprint cars are always a melting pot of a race here at Syracuse. The traveling World of Outlaws, of course, the main attraction. But for the first time in the last 11 years, an Easterner, Lance DeWeese, has set on the pole here at Syracuse, qualifying at better than 137 miles per hour.
I feel I have a shot from years of being here just watching this race. If you lead the first lap, you can win it. If you don't lead the first lap, you normally don't win it unless the guy in front of you screws up or brakes or lap cars become a factor. But it's just, you know, this place is real tough to pass on. It's a follow leader type deal, and I was just hoping to maybe get into the first turn first and just have a real safe race.
The preliminaries quickly showed why Lance was concerned. Watch the red and white number 16 of Jerry Dinnan from Bethel, Connecticut, right-hand side of your screen, simply gets out of control, crashes into the outside wall, and does a series of barrel rolls into corner number 3. Second year in a row that Denon has suffered through this at Syracuse.
There was some precautions taken, but fortunately Denon emerged from this wreck uninjured. As we look at it again, you'll see what the problem was. Denon got up in the loose stuff on the outside of turn 3, just piled into the wall at about 150 miles per hour. That set the car off onto a series of snap barrel rolls and eventually wound up on his side, but again, he was okay.
We had talked to him earlier. He said he had made a mistake a year ago that he would not repeat. Then, in the second qualifying race, Barry Canal simply loses control, spins sideways right in front of Aaron Berryhill, who somehow gets through, but Canals ends up upside down along the outside wall.
The field forms up for the start of the 1992 champion Spark Plug Nationals for the World of Outlaws here at Syracuse. 60 cars attempted to make the 31-car starting field for this race.
They will go 35 laps. The odds-on favorite, Sammy Swindell, of course, had elected to go home. He was sitting out. Steve Kinzer starts on the outside of row number 2. The green flag falls over pole setter Kenny Jacobs.
And going down into the first corner, Lance DeWeese did exactly what he wanted to do, get to the first turn first. The problem was the company he had behind him, Jacobs and Stevie.
Now, we mentioned that Jacobs was the pole setter. DeWeese in that Walt Dyer car number 461 was actually the fastest qualifier. He chose to start on the high side. He was right. He got the jump. There is Jack Houdenchild in the red, white, and blue number 10, the only Ford in the field. Remember him. This will be a terrific race.
Houdenchild has been ride hopping for the past 4 or 5 years, but last year finally settled in the KT with a Ford. Very comfortable in that race car. Steve Kinzer was pretty comfortable running in second, but had his sights set on the Pennsylvania leader.
Steve Kinzer has won 3 times here on the Moody Mile, but not since 1988, and for him, that's practically a dry spell.
Steve Kinzer, as most sprint car fans know, is absolutely fearless. Although he does call the Moody Mile a spooky racetrack, he seemed to have the hot number in the early going.
Although he has been so successful here, Kinzer's only ranked second in all-time points to Doug Wolfgang on the Moody Mile. There is Houdenchild going the inside of Kenny Jacobs. Remember, we told you Houdenchild would be entertaining today.
He certainly was. It was not entertaining for Dale Blaney, who for the second straight year made contact with the wall at Syracuse, although this incident nowhere near as severe as last year's.
The yellow flag came out only briefly, allowing the field to bunch up behind DeWeese, and I think a lot of people in the grandstands as well as the pits wondered just when was that other shoe going to come down from Steve Kinzer.
Further back in the field, Dale's brother, Dave Blaney, was battling for the 6th position with Mark Kinzer, relative of Steve.
Dave Blaney won this race back in 1987, and he is ranked 5th overall all-time career races in a sprint car.
Down the front stretch, the move was made by Kinzer in heavy traffic as he ducked around DeWeese to take the lead.
And watch Lance almost lose control. He gets very sideways there in corner number 2, but he saves it only to have to contend with Jack Houdenchild. Now, Houdenchild has moved up to second, and as Kinzer moves up to lap Ed Lynch Jr., watch what happens next.
Howd looks for some racing room off the 4th corner down the wide front straightaway. It was anybody's ball game, and going into corner number 1, Houdenchild rolled the dice, dove for the inside, pinned Kinzer behind the slower car, and made a colossal move through turn 2 to take the lead.
That was very interesting. It was just a simple matter was there was no lane there, but somehow Houdenchild found one.
While Kinzer really had to twist his car to get by Ed Lynch.
Lap 21, red flag, single car crash in the backstretch involving New York's Robbie Hart, but it was very timely because it was known before the race began the cars could not go the entire 35-lap distance on one load of fuel. Jack Houdenchild during the break.
Jack Houdenchild, the red flag gives you an opportunity to refuel. What other changes did you make?
We didn't make too many changes. I feel pretty good right now, just lowering the wing a little bit, that's all.
Do you think you caught Kinzer by surprise in traffic, or do you really think you're faster?
We're pretty quick right now. I think if we can just stay clean, we'll be all right.
Steve Kinzer under red tells his crew that he thinks he might be faster than the leader, Jack Houdenchild. How do you get back around him?
Oh, no, I said I think we're about the same speed. I said he's going to be hard to get back around. But I don't know. We just have to hope for the best.
Talk about getting around. Here's how it happened in the first place.
Kinzer got caught behind the lap car of Ed Lynch, and Jack Houdenchild put a sprint car normally where you'd only have room for a motorcycle.
Well, we all wondered, could Steve Kinzer do it again? Jack Haudenschild had never led a lap here at Syracuse until today, but watch on this restart. This is one of those patented outlaw restarts.
This is like the Oklahoma Land Rush. Fire a gun and it's every man for himself.
They start these races on the backstretch, not something that everybody agrees with. And look at there, Steve Kinzer had become the new race leader before the field was even scored at the restart of this race. Kinzer, three-time winner, Haudenschild, best career finish, a third.
Meanwhile, Johnny Herrera and Stevie Smith, whose car was leaking fluid under the red flag, had quietly slipped their way into the third and fourth positions.
Now, normally on an outlaw race with Steve Kinzer taking the lead at this juncture, the race was over, but this one was nowhere near over. Look at Jack Haudenschild moving up on Kinzer as he tries to put a lap on Len Krautheim.
Then, coming down the front straightaway, everybody went crazy. Kinzer went down to the very bottom, blocked out Haudenschild as they went into the corner. Kinzer found himself again shut out. He could not get by Krautheim, and Haudenschild came sneaking up on the inside.
Jack Haudenschild may have had a slightly better working race car in this race. Now watch the next few laps. You see how much smoother Haudenschild's car is. But Steve Kinzer, with that gigantic heart between his two shoulders, would never say die.
And note, that was the third time that Haudenschild had made a pass on the inside of turn 2. But watch this.
They're still trying to work their way around Len Krautheim. There's Jack Haudenschild almost losing control. Kinzer slips by again.
He went around both of them on the outside, and meanwhile, Johnny Herrera came up and gave Jack a little love tap in the back end.
Now, how are they going to get by Krautheim? Obviously, they're running quicker. Kinzer goes to the high side. And was that a move where he outbraved Len Krautheim?
Haudenschild was left to just sit and watch him off for a moment, and it took him a second to get around Krautheim, but when he did, he went straight after the leader again.
And for the second time in this race, Kinzer with that amount of lead, you would think it's all over. But look at Haudenschild. In that nearly perfectly working car, he is right there at the back door again.
Still more lap traffic in front of the leaders.
At this point, the lead had changed hands so many times, everybody had lost track. Look at Haudenschild up on the cinder track, lifting the left front wheel at least 12 inches off the ground.
Down the front straightaway, Kinzer going into the corner, trying to get by Dale Laxo, makes contact, almost loses the car, saves the car, keeps the lead, and Haud still can't catch him.
Haudenschild had his opportunity right there. As the laps began to wear down, it looked like that was his best chance to get around Steve Kinzer. But certainly, this event had still not reached its conclusion.
Kinzer still behind the Laxo 39 with Haudenschild knocking at the back door. Very stressful when you consider the speed over 100.
Despite his domination of World of Outlaw racing, Steve Kinzer is only the third highest ranked driver in terms of laps led. Jack Haudenschild makes one more effort to try and get around Kinzer. Kinzer knows he's there.
Any two lesser drivers would have hit the wall several times before this point.
There goes Kinzer trying to assert himself. He makes a very forward-looking move going down into corner number 3.
Now here you see Dave Blaney's slower car down on the inside. The motor let go as they come down to the white flag. This was do or die time for Jack Haudenschild.
One lap to go. The two drivers had seen the white flag. We believed all of the racing continued after the checker. There is Steve Kinzer, the Iron Man, putting a little bit of distance between himself and Haudenschild. And Paul, it's ironic, seemingly his easiest lap was the last one.
I tell you, Steve kept his foot to the floor. The minute he got in the clear on this lap, left Haudenschild in the dirt, came down, took the checkered flag, running the last lap in 26 seconds flat.
Despite that, it was learned later on that he had a tire going flat during this last lap.
Stevie Kinzer, did you ever have to work so hard for a victory in your life?
That was a pretty rough one there. I'll tell you what, that was some close racing at a high speed.
That move on the front straightaway for the win, describe it.
I don't know. Every time I come back and start giving him a little bit of room, her hard was right back, so I finally just had to stick my nose in, almost got it there in one spot where it didn't need to be.
Courage at the mile. What part does courage play in this victory?
Hell of a lot, I'll tell you that right there. Hell of a lot.
Those few words certainly describe this race. It was on lap 27 when the fifth and final pass for the lead took place.
That's when Steve Kinzer went to the outside and just outbraved Jack Haudenschild going into turn 1. Haud almost lost the car, but saved it for a second.
Victory lane is always interesting, but this one today could be fascinating. Let's see how this is played out.
Jack Haudenschild and Stevie Kinzer embrace the sportsmanship showing there, just no words can describe. Jack, when Muhammad Ali, back in the days, even he wasn't champion, he was the people's champion. Right now, I think you're the people's champion of this race.
Well, we give Steve a good run, and, you know, Steve's been winning everything this year, and, you know, yeah, people kind of root for the underdog sometime, and I guess we're the underdog right now.
The move on the front straightaway where he passed you to take the win, were you surprised, and what more did you have for him?
Well, that's all I had. I gave him everything I had, and no, I wasn't surprised. You know, when you race with Steve, you got to run hard right till the checkered flag, or you're going to get passed.
Speaking of having not much left, your right rear is blistered. How far could this car have gone?
Oh, we had a good 10 or 15 laps in it. We picked a good tire, and the car was working real good, and you know, we just got beat fair and square.
Steve Kinzer, winning for the 4th time, has become the highest-ranking sprint car driver of all time at Syracuse. Herrera was 3rd, Smith 4th, Lance DeWeese 5th, 6th through 10th, Hillenberg, Jeff Swindell, Danny Smith, Jerry Stone from Oklahoma, and Terry McCarl from Iowa. Steve Kinzer is not only the king of the Outlaws, but the champion, as in spark plug and race winner today at Syracuse. Back with more action from Syracuse on Prime next. Hopefully you've had a chance to catch your breath after that exhilarating sprint car race. This is the restart of the 358 small block main event. Tremont the leader, Dickie Larkin, a black 99 is 2nd, Brett Hearn is 3rd, Dave Camara is 4th, and in 5th is Jeff Hetzler in the white, number 89.
They're contesting the positions here because there are a lot of lap cars thrown into the mix, and as we go back to Greenlayer, this could create some excitement.
They come 2, 3, and kind of 4 abreast, maybe 5 abreast, and look at the mix-up in the back of the field. Our car starting. Oh, somebody almost gets the fence as they take the green in corner number 4.
And they're going to go 4 wide, and look at that cut across the track by Billy Pouch. Fantastic move to get back down to the inside.
A lot of people thought that Pouch in that blue number 15 would be a threat today. There is Brett Hearn. He has somehow came out in 2nd position after that restart.
He must have gotten the jump on Dick Larkin there to get that 2nd position. The field streaming down through Rick Wilson in the 24. We talked about him earlier. It's not been much of a factor at all today. One car slides. Oh! Tough contact. That looks like the 26 of Tom Foley piling into the 3rd turn wall.
Tom Foley had made contact with another competitor and simply went out of control as he went into the corner number 3 at easily better than 135 miles per hour.
Caution flag comes out once again. Let's take another look at this and see if we can judge what happened. Foley in the middle of this pack of cars. You'll see him coming out of the bottom of your screen as Wilson and Doug Hoffman, 60, head to turn 3, makes contact with Kirk Van Duser's car, and apparently it broke something. He had no control whatsoever and just slammed into the wall.
So Foley was out of the event, and Tremont somehow throughout all of this had been able to hold on to the top spot. But Mr. Hearn was still right there behind him.
Meanwhile, Danny Johnson and Billy Pound still had their private battle going on in 8th and 9th, and Doug Hoffman's march was continuing. He had gotten up to the 14th position.
But Kenny Tremont continued to hold on to the lead after 28 laps officially were complete. Hearn, Larkin, 2nd and 3rd. You see the rest of the top 10. This still was anybody's race as we headed toward the final stages of this contest. Back to the Moody Mile after this brief yellow flag. You'll note that Brett Hearn in the black and yellow Miller-sponsored number 1 has moved back to the runner-up position. Kenny Tremont continues to hold on to the lead. It's been a treacherous hold on to that lead, but he's managed somehow to do so.
Tremont has just held on from the word go. He's been running very smoothly all race long, running his own race, which is probably the key to his success right now.
The green is back out, and Kenny Tremont does what he's done so far with this entire race. He holds on to the number 1 spot, 3 and 4 abreast in the corner number 1.
And Mac Quinn in the 44 ducked inside of both Steve Payne and Danny Johnson, took 2 spots on that restart. Very astute timing by Mr. Quinn.
The blue number 15 is Billy Pouch. That car is serving double duty this week. They're using that same chassis for both this race as well as the large block race. The gold number 60, Doug Hoffman. Remember, he has come from 49th position and continues to pick up spots.
Going through corner number 4, Hoffman continues to march his way forward through the field. He's got to start worrying about tire wear, though, in the later stages of the race here. He doesn't want to burn him up too much before he can get a chance of getting up front.
You can see that the traffic continues to be very heavy. There is Doug Hoffman in the gold number 60. Jim Chanette in the white number 15 goes to the inside of the blue 15 of Billy Pouch. There is Rich Rickey in the red number 55. It's very tight action. As we watch this, let's bring in a man who is in the dirt Hall of Fame, the original Tampa Terror, Wiley Will Cagle himself, a man who has more nicknames than I have letters in my name. What do you think about this action?
This is fantastic action with Billy Pouch and Doug Hoffman. If you'll notice, Doug Hoffman tries to run the bottom line under Pouch. Pouch is running the outside, and it just seems like Pouch has enough motor to stay ahead.
Pouch coming off corner number 2, drifting up, and wow, almost gets a piece of the wall. Pouch is really pushing the car, and Will, I have to ask you, is Doug Hoffman pushing his car too hard too soon?
No, Doug is running the bottom of the racetrack, and he's picking the left front up just a little bit, right in the middle of the corner, and he's staying on the bottom. Pouch is trying to run right up to the cushion or the marbles on the outside and utilize the circumference of the turn.
Back up near the front, the black number 99, that's Dickie Larkin. Remember, he is in 3rd position. Jeff Hetzler, former race winner, is in 4th. The track this week, Will, has just been superb.
The racetrack has been so smooth. The speeds have been up. I believe just about every record that can be broken has been broken, and the guys are really going flat out.
Jeff Hetzler is trying to go flat out right now. He's doing everything he can as the race winds down to try to reel in Dick Larkin. Larkin's been pretty much sitting pat, though. He hasn't been going forward, but he hasn't been going backwards either.
Well, the most remarkable characteristic about this track is despite several intermittent rain showers, it's continued to be very smooth, but is it wide enough to race on?
Well, it funnels down several places, starting between 1 and 2, down into 3 and 4, and the narrowest point is actually going into 3, and then it opens up coming off of 4 again, and your home stretch is the place to pass. The back stretch, you have to really hold it close or be running much faster than a competitor too fast.
We go back to the trials and tribulations, as it were, of Doug Hoffman in that gold number 60 car, catching up to the back end of Jim Chenette's car number 15, and Hoffman looks like he wants to make a move in the treacherous zone in turn 3.
And that's Pouch again in the other blue number 15 this time, but Chenette, oh, what a disappointing story. I mean, he's running competitively, he's well inside the top 15, but he just can't hold on to the front runners, Will.
Well, it looks like he tries awful hard getting in the corner, and he gets in a little deep and goes high, where the more experienced Doug Hoffman and Billy Pouch, they just seem to have it on the driving experience.
Hoffman has come from 49th start. Has he used up this car?
Well, his tires is what he has to really watch for. His car is awful tight, and you'll notice he picks the left front up.
Going back up front, Kenny Tremont still comfortable in the first position with car 115, and about a second back on the racetrack in the Miller Genuine Draft car number 1. That's Brett Hearn.
Well, of course, all the headlines and all the fans talk about the drivers, but we have a technological situation here, particularly with the motors, don't we?
Yes, we do, Larry. The lead car, Kenny Tremont, is a ported engine, which requires that he weigh 2,600 pounds. Brett Hearn has a non-ported engine, which means he can weigh 200 pounds less or 2,400 pounds.
As we look at Hetzler, keep in mind those 200 pounds, that's almost 1/10 the total weight of the car. So theoretically, Paul, if he's 10 horsepower down, he's still competitive.
Right, the weight difference there actually acts as pretty much an equalizer between those ported and non-ported engines. And here you see why it acts as an equalizer. His Hearn comes right up on Tremont's back bumper in traffic yet again.
Oh, Dave Camara, we were just talking about engines. It looks like that Camara has lost one. Remember, here's a man who qualified 5th, was running very competitive all day today, but it looks like it's over for him.
They call him the Flash from Pulteney, Vermont, and that motor just flashed into existence.
Will, what do you think? Let's go back up front, look at Tremont in the white 115 and Hearn in the black number 1. What do you like so far?
Well, Kenny Tremont definitely has the advantage with the ported engine and the horsepower coming off the corner. Brett can go on in a little deeper because he has a weight advantage of 200 pounds less.
But you still didn't pick one. Which one do you like?
I believe Kenny Tremont, with his horsepower coming off, is going to be awful tough.
Well, Paul, he certainly has history behind him, as we mentioned. Oh, we have lost another engine.
Looks like the 26 of Ricky Rickner, and boy, did he torpedo that engine, laying a stream of fluid all the way down the front stretch. He's pulled up high in turns 1 and 2 now, and the yellow flag is out.
And for just a moment there, I was frightened. It looked like he was out of control, but you see the yellow bunting flickering back and forth. We're going to have a pause in the race here as the cars are kind of jamming up there in the front stretch, but scorers will get this all figured out. 38 of 50 laps are now complete. Kenny Tremont continues to lead on Prime Network. 140-plus mile-per-hour action on the Moody Mile at Syracuse, speeds the likes of these drivers never see at any other time during the season. As we mentioned, this is essentially the national championship for the small block or 358 modifieds. Now, Brett Hearn and Kenny Tremont have been dominating this race, and right now, Andy Fusco has moved down to Hearn's pit for an update.
Jay Castamore, the radio man for Brett Hearn, what's he saying?
He's not really saying too much. He's pretty comfortable in the car right now. You know, just from what I can see, it looks like Tremont's got a lot of straightaway speed. We got that Tony File 358 unported motor singing around here, but you know, we were hoping that lap traffic would stay out there because I think Brett stood a better chance there. We'll just have to wait and see what happens here. Hopefully we'll get back into lap traffic before the end of this thing's out. We're going back to green, so.
Jay, very well done. Now we have a fifth announcer on this broadcast, back to green with 9 laps to go.
Kenny Tremont continuing to set the pace as he has since the drop of the green flag. Brett Hearn running in second, and let's bring Will Cagle back in. Will, what's going through Kenny's mind through these final 9 laps?
Well, just drive the car nice and straight, run his own race, let everybody else run theirs, and not get too deep where he goes high and makes any drastic mistakes.
Have we gotten to the point where Brett Hearn might possibly just be giving up and settling for second?
Well, I believe Brett has to catch him going in, and he's abusing his tires, where Kenny's getting in nice and straight and coming off straight.
Looking at action inside the top 10, there is the side-by-side battle for 5th position. On the inside is Matt Quinn. On the outside is Randy Glenski. Cars painted alike. Glenski in the 28 car.
And right ahead of them, the battle for 3rd going down the back straightaway. Jeff Hetzler in the 89 has been dogging Dick Larkin all race long for that position. Tries to duck to the inside in the corner, but Larkin shuts the door and takes that preferred inside lane.
It's been over a decade since Hetzler won this race. He won it in 1980. It was the inaugural. He's one of the all-time champions of the small blocks, but he hasn't had a chance to win recently. This is a tough race to win, Will.
Yes, it is. It's very tough, and when you're leading, you're counting the laps and the seconds.
The battle rages on here. Hetzler still back in the 4th position, trying to find some way to get around Larkin. But again, Larkin's protecting the inside lane on the racetrack, coming through the corners, shutting down Hetzler's ability to put him up on the high side and get him out of the racing lane.
Still, anybody among that top 5 particularly has a chance to win. That gold number 60 right in the center of the screen, that's Doug Hoffman. He has had a tremendous drive, but, well, I think he burned that car out a little bit.
Well, I think Hoffman getting from way in deep in the field up to his position where he is 10th, I believe he's out of rubber right now.
He's still trying, though, as he comes to the inside of Jim Chenette here, coming through the very tricky second corner and heading down the backstretch. Let's see what Hoffman does here. He might want to try the inside lane going into turn number 3, and he's going to try it, but Chenette, again, same thing as Larkin. He's got to protect that inside hub.
Chenette is running in 9th position right now. Doug Hoffman is in 10th position. And we are coming up on 5 laps to go. Lap number 45 goes into the books.
If you'll notice, the 60 of Doug Hoffman's picks the left front up right in the middle of the corner, and what's happening, the racetrack is getting run on and getting tight. The track is changing.
Doug Hoffman is ranked number 2 in the all-time Syracuse points for the small block cars. Certainly, he is showing us why he has that lofty ranking.
Jim Chenette running just ahead of him there in 9th. We go back up front. You see the separation again, as has been the case throughout the entire race. Under green flag conditions, Kenny Tremont's able to build up about a second advantage over Brett Hearn.
Kenny Tremont has had a very smooth afternoon, except for that one incident on the back straightaway. Apparently, they are advising him very well down in the pit area, and we understand there is a surprise ham radio operator down there.
Okay, we're late in the goal, and Kenny Tremont's led all the way. And hey, guys, guess who the crew chief is on the 115 today? None other than Jimmy Horton, a dirt star of his own right, seeking a Winston Cup career. He's talking Tremont through this one.
Jimmy Horton has won on the super speedways of America, but for a dirt track driver, this is a super speedway.
Moving down the backstretch now. Wow, Randy Glenski, and it looks like he got contacted in the back by Danny Johnson, got way out of shape back there in 6th. Matt Quinn still moving through, though, in the 5th position. He's had a stellar drive today.
Well, just 2 laps to go, and I think Tremont's got this one in the bag if 4 car lengths is a bag.
Well, it is at Syracuse. 1 car length is a bag, Larry.
Watching Matt Quinn again, driving in the 5th position, trying to reel in Jeff Hetzler here in the closing laps as Brett Hearn tries to maybe throw a chain out and hook onto the back of Kenny Tremont's bumper just to stay with him.
There is third place, Dickie Larkin, that black number 99, definitely not only within sight, but within that AT&T distance. They reach out and touch someone. Jeff Hetzler is running in fourth position. Paul looking for the white flag this time around.
Tremont moves by. He's got 1 mile left to travel here at Syracuse, and Brett Hearn's got one last shot.
Now for Kenny Tremont, he's got this race in his grasp. He just has to concentrate. He's going to shut out all the thoughts about funny noises coming from the engines. He's not going to worry about a suspension part falling off. He's just concentrating. He has to hit that very narrow line going into corner number 3.
And Brett Hearn's worrying about the fact that maybe Kenny could make a mistake, and that might be his opportunity to just sneak in there and steal the victory away.
But Kenny Tremont barrels off of corner number 4. He's looking for his second win in the small block championship at Syracuse, and he has it. Everybody excited up there except Jimmy Horton. Will Cagle, final comments.
The drivers had their choice of weight or horsepower, and the horsepower won out.
And we will be back at the Moody Mile at Syracuse with an interview with today's winner after these words on Prime Network. Here at Syracuse, the man who has the best career batting average in this race, Kenny Tremont, has added to that by winning this great race for the second time in his career. Andy Fusco has moved down to victory lane to talk with the winner.
Kenny Tremont, I know they're never easy, but that one did look comfortable.
Well, it really helped to start on the pole. That really made our whole race. I knew on those restarts there with Brett and stuff, he was looking to get in front because he'd be tough to beat once he got out front too. But the key to this deal is starting up front.
Jimmy Horton is the crew chief on the radio. How did that thing come about?
Well, Jimmy ran the car at one of your rival tracks, Fulton, there for the owners, and he got real friendly with the crew, and he's good friends with Jaco Marter, who's the crew chief of this car, and he asked him to help us out. So it worked out good. I was really thankful for his experience and stuff. He's definitely got a lot of years under him, and he helped us out a lot.
Before today, Tremont had led just 17 laps of this great annual race. As a result of today, he is now ranked second in all-time laps led. Hearn was second, Larkin third, Jeff Hetzler moves up to fourth, and Matt Quinn fifth.
And in position 6 through 10, you see Doug Hoffman wound up in 9th spot at the end. And Kenny Tremont, like the ace reliever in baseball, made a key save in this race, and that guaranteed him the victory.
Syracuse is always fascinating, and it was again today. Even though Kenny Tremont led flag to flag, it wasn't easy. But then again, it never is at Syracuse. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you the next time at the races.
This presentation of Super Dirt Week was brought to you by Sunoco Race Fuel, by Wheels Discount Auto Supply Stores. You just can't get along without your wheels. By Pontiac, we build excitement, and by Champion Spark Plugs.
Today's races were a production of Dirt Motorsports Television.
The Chevy Motorsports Hour has been brought to you by Chevrolet, the heartbeat of America, who invites you to see all the new 1993 Chevrolets at your local Chevy dealer.